Okay, back to Shmuel Bet. Last time, 2 weeks ago, we had a very, very interesting discussion about the geography of the history and the geography of Tanakh. And what we found, I'm going to put the map on the screen straight away, I think. I'll put the map on the screen straight away. Let's just see if I can do that. 1 minute. No, why can't I do that? Okay, that's not working. Give me a sec just to that should work now. Give me a second. Yeah, there we go. Right. So there's the map. And if you remember, what we were talking about was the split in the kingdom. We always think about the split of the kingdom as coming after King Solomon, Shlomo HaMelech, where the kingdom split into the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. We think that's how we think of the split of the kingdom, which is of course true. We have Yeravam and oh, mine's gone blank.
Yeah.
The king of the kings. Sorry?
I think it was Yechiam.
No, not Yechiam. Yeravam and can't remember. Mine's gone a blank. Anyway, that will come later on in Malachim.
Rehoboam, Johnny. Rechavam.
Rechavam. Yeah, Yeravam and Rechavam. Thank you. Yeah, mine just went a complete blank then. That's too much feedback here, muting everybody. That's the main split that we think of. And of course, that was a split that was never recovered from. 10 lost tribes. We're just about now beginning to find some of them. We know that the Bnei Menashe, the Indian Jews, the Bnei Menashe, the Ethiopian Jews, possibly the tribe of Dan. So we think of that as the split, but actually there was a first split, which is what we're talking about here. When we think about the worst thing that can possibly happen to any people is what's happening in Syria today. And that is civil war. Civil war is the worst thing that can ever happen to a people. Think about the history of the civil wars that we know. English Civil War, American Civil War, Syrian Civil War. We've had our own civil wars, and this is an example. This chapter that we're doing now is a tragic example of a civil war. It didn't reach the proportions of a previous civil war that we did mention, a previous civil war last time, and that was the civil war between the tribe of Binyamin and the rest of Israel, with the story of the Pilegesh Begivon, the concubine of Giva, and there, of course, the tribe of Binyamin was almost completely wiped out. Remember, there were only 400 people left, and we had to have all that business where they had to be allowed to intermarry with other tribes because they didn't have any left to marry within their own tribe. That was a terrible situation, that the Pilegesh Begiva situation. Now here we've got another civil war which we are going to read about in this chapter. It's a much more confined civil war, in as much as the numbers of people who are killed are nowhere near as great. But nevertheless, it's a very bad situation. Civil war is never good. And when we're talking about the Jewish people who have more than enough enemies from outside, we certainly don't need to be fighting amongst ourselves. And, ein chadash tachat hashemesh. There's nothing new under the sun. We don't seem to learn our lessons, do we? And we should be learning our lessons. And we should look at this chapter now, and we should see the outcome of this chapter. And actually, what's very interesting is, unusually in Tanakh, neither side comes out looking very good. Often, and nearly always in Tanakh, of course, this is a very common thing, isn't it? That history is written by the victors, right? Not by the defeated. So when you read the accounts of various battles in history, whether they be modern battles or they be ancient battles, you're reading them, and we have to remember this, you're reading them through the eyes of the victors, because nobody is going to write about their own defeats. They only ever write about their victories. So Tanakh itself is written from the eyes of the victors. We will see. Well, we've already seen, haven't we? Let's go back in the Torah. We see the battles of the starting with the Bnei Yisrael coming out of Egypt, and the Yam Suf. We don't find, one second, Philip, we don't find any accounts of the Egyptians in the Torah. We're reading it from the vantage point of the victors. Same with the Sefer Yehoshua. All of the victories that Yehoshua had. There is one exception, of course, in the book of Yehoshua that we've done together. What was the exception where we see a defeat by Yehoshua, the defeat of Yehoshua's troops? But it's a defeat which we read about in order to teach us a lesson. Anyone know what I'm talking about?
The battle after Jericho, the second battle they lost.
Correct, the second battle after Jericho. Where was it?
I don't know.
Anyone remember where it was? The battle after Jericho that they lost? I'll give you a clue.
Say that.
There's a clue.
It's bad.
Yes.
Galil.
Go on, Barbara, unmute.
It was at Ai.
It was at Ai. That was the clue. Yeah, the battle at Ai. Yeah, and why we lost that battle at Ai, but why? Why did the Torah tell us about that? Why did Tanakh tell us about that? Because we had to learn a lesson. Why did we get defeated at Ai?
Because we doubted. We doubted.
No, not because we doubted. Because not because we were overconfident.
Because we weren't united.
Not because we weren't united. No.
Didn't somebody take something that wasn't supposed to?
Yes, that's right. They took spoil. They took spoil from Jericho. One sec, Phil. Come to you in one sec. They took spoil from Jericho, and they had to do tshuva for that. That's why they lost the battle at Ai. But generally speaking, we don't see defeats spoken about in Tanakh. Yes, Philip.
You were talking about civil war. Today, what's happening in Syria isn't civil war. It is total chaos, because I've just seen now that Israeli troops are defending and helping UN troops in Syria, inside Syria at the moment, which means to say, I mean, they're attacking the UN for some reason, which has nothing to do with the civil war. This is total chaos. Well, and it may turn out to be to Israel's advantage in the short term, but in the long term, we have to be very, very cautious, because you've got Al-Qaeda on our borders now.
Well, we're not getting into that now. We're learning Tanakh. You may well be right, but not if it's about what we've just heard from Philip. No, I'm not getting into today's politics. I want to learn some Tanakh. So
it's a little bit relevant.
Okay, go on then.
Somebody last night said that what's going on in Syria is because of the Sykes-Picot, where they artificially made a country of tribes who have always been fighting against each other. And it brought up the thought in my mind last night that Israel was also, although we were a family, we were a group of tribes. And it's very hard to artificially make a group of tribes one nation. The tribal identity is very strong.
That's what I said yesterday in the dialogue.
Yeah, that is very.
I was just wondering if last night whether there was any influence of the fact that Israel was a group of 12 tribes.
Yes.
And it was hard to hold them together as one nation.
I think that's very relevant, Hannah. I think that's extremely relevant. You're absolutely right about Syria, of course. Syria was a made-up country that was just a whole bunch of tribes. It's not surprised it's all collapsed. But more important, when we're learning Tanakh, just let me finish. More important when we're learning Tanakh is what you see on the screen now, which is this tribal map, because we were a group of tribes, and right from the beginning of the Yosef story that we're going to read about in a couple of weeks' time, we have been a fighting family who have fought amongst ourselves. The only difference that we can see is that after the loss, if you like, of the 10 tribes, and we had Yehuda, Binyamin, and bits of Levi, which were left, we have been, and Shimon was incorporated into Yehuda, yes. So
Shimon.
But what's happened there since then? That has been a united group of Jews, and not a tribal group. What's going on in various other places, amongst the Arab world at least, is very much a tribal wars between that. And I'm not getting into that now. Just say one more thing before we go back to the Tanakh, and that is the problem that the West has, that it does not understand the mindset of the Middle Eastern tribal situation. It doesn't understand that. It's demonstrated that it doesn't understand it over and over again. Not only do the Hamoin Am, the man on the street, not understand what Hannah has just told us, which is absolutely right, which is that the tribal rivalries amongst the Arab nations is what will tear them apart. The governments don't understand it either. And this was, of course, the big problem that the West has always had, is try to impose Western democratic values on a system which is not suited for it and doesn't want it. So I agree entirely with that. And what we've also got to do is we have to remember that our downfall has always been when we are disunited. And that's what we have to remember. And what we're going to learn in this week's chapter of Tanakh is exactly that. We are fighting amongst ourselves. It's a civil war in this chapter, and it sets the scene for 7 years of battles between Shaul's troops, and of course Shaul's not here anymore, but troops loyal to the house of Shaul, and troops loyal to the house of David. And it was only 7 years later, 7.5 years later, that David successfully united the two kingdoms. So what we had is we have the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah separate, a split. David is trying to bring them together in peaceful means. And what we see in this chapter is that the armies, and you don't see Ishbosheth and you don't see David, who are the kings in this chapter. You see their generals. the general of Ishbosheth was Avner ben Ner, and the general of David was Yoav ben Tzeruiah. This chapter, you will see, is all about them, and it's David on the one hand is trying to bring this the kingdoms together peacefully, and it's not working, and there's a huge amount of bloodshed. And what I was just in the middle of saying, and I got taken off track, was that Tanakh here is critical both of David's troops and of Ishbosheth's troops. He's critical of Yoav and Avner. In other words, what Tanakh is doing unusually is not just giving us history from the side of the victors, which we normally see. It's being critical about the whole concept of civil war. And that's something unusual in Tanakh, but it's something that we must take note of. So let's get into... Yes.
Didn't Avner always have something against David? Even when he was with Shaul? Way back at the beginning?
Yes. Avner, Shaul had his mishagas, right? Shaul had his mental illness, wanted to kill David. Avner was the person through whom he did it. Avner was very much against David, and that's the background to this chapter. Let's go into the chapter now. I'm going to take this off the screen and put the text on the screen. If I can find it. Yeah, there it is. 1 second. Right, so you should have the text on the screen there. Now, what we did last time was we spoke about Yavesh Gilead, that David had sent messages there, and then we came to here. This is where we just ended this time. Last time we ended with verses 8 and 9. We need to do verses 8 and 9 again, because they are the background to what we're going to do today. So, Jeffrey, where are you? Are you here? Yes, you are. Jeffrey, verses from 8 onwards, please. Chapter 2 of Shmuel Bet.
Now Avner, son of Ner, the commander of Saul's army, had taken Ishbosheth, son of Saul, and brought him across to Mahanaim, and made him king over Gilead, over Asherite, over Jezreel, over Ephraim, over Benjamin, and over all of Israel. Okay,
stop there for a sec, Jeffrey. That's what we did last time. If you remember, we talked about Mahanaim. If you were listening carefully yesterday to the laning, you will have heard right at the end of the parsha that word. In fact, the very last word of the parsha yesterday is Mahanaim. The word Mahanaim. Yeah. So that was appropriate. And we spoke about it last time, that he made him king. What do you mean he made him king? Avner, what's he got to do with anything? Making somebody king? Well, he's the kingmaker, isn't he? He's the chief of staff. This was a military coup. Ishbosheth was just a puppet king. Avner was the real power there. Ishbosheth was just a puppet king and that's why he was sent to Mahanaim. Where is Mahanaim? I showed you on the map last time. It's miles away.
It's northeast of Jerusalem.
No, it's not northeast of Jerusalem. Well, it is northeast of Jerusalem, but it's miles away. Yeah. Miles away. Let's just put that map on just for a second. Let's put that map back.
Isn't it near Rosh Pinah? Today it's near Rosh Pinah.
No, it's further east.
It's in Jordan.
Yeah, but Mahanaim, isn't it near Rosh Pinah now when you drive up there?
That's must be a different
There's a summit.
It's a different Mahanaim.
That's a different Mahanaim.
Okay.
Look at the screen. Look at the screen. Mahanaim is here. Oh, there's the Jordan River. Right? There is Mahanaim. It's way over the other side of the Jordan, miles away from Israel proper. Let's see if we can find Mahanaim on a modern map, shall we? Let's have a look. Machanaim, biblical map, biblical place. Okay, let's have a look. Let's see where it is on a modern map. Like this one. Over, well over the Jordan River. Let's see if we can find a better one. What about this one here? There's the Jabbok River that we talked about last time, that Jeffrey mentioned last time. And here, there's, by the way, there's Sukkot. That's Sukkot, where Yaakov made the pens and what have you for his animals. So this is all Yaakov country, Yaakov and Esau fighting country. You'll see it in next week's parsha. Okay, Vayishlach begins with Jacob sending messengers from Machanaim. Next week's parsha begins at Machanaim, and you will see the very famous story of Yaakov fighting with the angel is actually on the banks of the Jabbok River. So our parshiot at the moment are right in the country where we are learning this Tanakh here. But you can see it's way, way east of the Jordan River in what is today known as Jordan. So that's where it all took place. Now, this is new. This is this week's stuff. Go, Jeffrey, verse 10.
Ishbosheth, son of Saul, was 40 years old when he reigned over Israel, and he reigned for 2 years. In brackets, however, the house of Judah was loyal to David. The number of days that David was king over the house of Judah in Hebron was 7 years and 6 months.
Okay, stop there. So that raises a question, doesn't it? David's in Hebron for 7.5 years. Ishbosheth is only king for 2 years. What happened after Ishbosheth during the rest of that time? Who's in charge?
Avner.
Avner, correct. Avner's in charge.
But Johnny, can I just interrupt here? You actually mentioned that Avner was the kingmaker and Ishbosheth was just a lad. But at 40 years old, he was a bit more than a lad.
If you remember, we discussed this last time. We had various different options as to why Ishbosheth was, first of all, why wasn't he fighting with his brothers? Remember, his brothers got killed.
He was a shvacha.
He was a shvacha bria. He was a shvacha bria. Yeah, that's right. He was a cripple of some description. He wasn't fit to be a soldier. So one of the opinions was that we had around our table here was that he was a kid, but he wasn't a kid. He was 40, but he was a kid in his head. He was, he wasn't king material.
It's interesting actually about the kid business, because at the time of the Akedah, Yitzchak is referred to as the kid, and he was 37.
Okay, well, he wasn't 37, according to me. You're right, according to Rashi, he was 37, but it happens to be one of my favorite shiurim to prove that actually he wasn't 37. He was probably about 12. But we'll do that. We'll do that another time. But you're right. 40 is not a child, but I think he was childlike. Ishbosheth was childlike, which I don't think you can say Yitzchak was childlike when he was 37, which is one of my proofs why I don't think he was 37.
Ishbosheth might have been autistic.
Yeah, well, he might have been anything. He wasn't fit to be king, and he wasn't fit to be a soldier. Yeah. That's for sure. Right. So yes. So Avner is the power here, not Ishbosheth. Now then we are at verse 12, Jeffrey.
Avner, son of Ner, went forth with the servants of Ishbosheth, son of Saul, from Machanaim to Gibeon.
Okay, stop there. So he's gone from Machanaim to Givon. Where is Givon? Okay, first of all, go back.
Is Givon the same as Gibeah that I talked about yesterday? Where
No, that's Giv'ah. That's Giv'ah.
Gibeah. Okay, yeah.
So Givon, we've heard Givon already a few times in Tanakh by the time we get to here. Who can tell me where we've heard Givon before?
Binyamin with the Benjamites.
That was Giv'ah.
Oh.
Hashemesh beGivon Dom.
Yes, very good, Philip. Hashemesh beGivon Dom. What is Philip referring to?
That you see that I don't remember. I know the expression.
When Joshua was fighting.
Correct. When Joshua was fighting.
Yes, right. Yeah.
What did he ask for?
He
The
asked
sun to
for the
stand
length
still.
on the day.
Still.
He asked for the sun to stand still. Okay. Shemesh beGivon Dom. Let the sun stand still in Givon. Vayareach be. And the moon in somewhere else. Where was it? Shemesh beGivon Dom Vayareach. Can't remember. Anyway, that was in Sefer Yehoshua. So yes, Givon is where the sun stood still. Another example, please, of where we've heard Givon. It's on the screen for you. Actually, I put it on it. Same also Sefer Yehoshua.
Does that put Givon in Emek Ayala?
Hey, Ayala, there we go. Emek Ayala. Thank you very much. Right, go on. Where have we heard Givon from? Where have we heard Givon apart from the sun?
The five kings of the Amorites, king of Jerusalem, king of Hebron, king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, the king of Eglon gathered together and went up, and they and all their camps and encamped on Gibeon and made war against it.
Yeah, well, Givon, do you remember the situation in Sefer Yehoshua where a tribe came and pretended to be from far, far away, and they put on old clothes and they brought old battered water skins? That was Givon. And what happened? Yehoshua made a pact with them because he thought that they'd come from far away to support. Turns out that they were only from round the corner. And the Yehoshua had been told by God not to make any pacts of peace with the people. And that's why Givon pretended to have come from far away. So they then were, as it were, semi-Jewish. They were accepted partly into the Jewish people. Yehoshua had made a pact with them. And everybody else then around attacked Givon. And Yehoshua had to go and help them. Right? Look at verse 4 on the screen, Jeffrey, please.
Come up to me and help me, and we will smite Gibeon, for it made peace with Joshua and with the children of Israel.
So, in other words, all those people around, all those five kings of Amorites, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, all of those made war against Givon. Why?
Oh, well, they were attacking Saul, really.
Well, it wasn't Saul at this time, it was Yehoshua. This is Yehoshua. They were attacking the Jews. That's right. Givon had made a pact with Yehoshua, and therefore everybody else attacked them. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing changes.
Nothing changes. As Philip said yesterday, turn. That was about the only thing I understood, by the way. Anyway, so that was Givon. Givon was a place that made a pact, but it was a very strong city. It was a strong city. Now it was. Let's see where it is. Where it is now. There is Givon. I'm going to just move in there, so you can see where it is. Givon is northwest of Jerusalem. Okay. Now, if I get it, there is Pisgat Zev. Can you see that there? It might be a bit small for you to see. Pisgat Zev. Can you see that?
Yeah.
There is a winery there, and there's Neve Yaakov. This is all in Yehuda v'Shomron. This is what is known by some people as the West Bank. There's a very well-known winery over here called Psagot. Anybody been to Psagot Winery?
Yeah.
I've been to a wedding there once. It was very nice. But it was a bit scary getting there because Waze took me all the way through this Arab area here, and I never saw an Israeli number plate for about half an hour, and I was schwitzing a bit, and I didn't like it very much. But this is where there's Givat Zev, and there's Nebi Samuel. We've been there twice on Tiyulim, and if I come out a bit further, can you see that Al-Jib?
Yeah.
Now, J and G in Arabic are the same thing, okay? B and V are the same thing. So Al-Jib is give.
Al-Jib.
Al-Give. Givon. It's the same
yes.
place. This Al-Jib, the place which is now known as Al-Jib, is in fact Givon. Now, it is a very strategic place. What is the most important thing in a strategic place?
Height.
Height. That's right. Now, I'm going to show you a picture. I'm just going to take off, if I can do this, I'm just going to take off my background screen so that I can show you this map, not this map, this aerial view in the Koren book. Can you see that?
It's a bit difficult, but yeah.
Right. Now you can get the impression that's an aerial view of Al-Jib, which is Givon. You get that. You can certainly get the impression that that is a tell, can't you? It's a height.
Oh yeah, very much so.
So that is Givon, okay? And you can see why it's so important, because it's high, right?
You've got 360 vision.
You've got 360 vision, and look where it is. Let's just go back onto the map. There, look where it is. It's right. It's a very strategic place. Can you see that?
Yeah, you've got complete. You've got north, south, east, and west vision there.
Yeah. So you've got complete vision there, and look where it is in relation to the country. Bang in the middle. Bang in the middle. Now, let's just go back to the text. Have a look at verse 12 again, please, Jeffrey.
Avner, son of Ner, went forth with the servants of Ishbosheth, son of Saul, from Machanaim to Gibeon.
Right, wait, stop. So he's gone from Machanaim. Now, where is Machanaim on this map?
Well, it's miles away.
There is the Jordan River.
It's
Machanaim is around about where Amman is.
No, I think it's further north.
I think it's a bit further north of Amman. It's probably about there.
It's where the Jabbok is, isn't it?
Yeah. I can't see the Jabbok on it. So that's probably the Jabbok there, or somewhere like that. It's around about here anyway, let's say. That's a jolly long way for Avner to take his troops from there all the way over to the red thing there, which is Machanaim. Which is Givon. Machanaim to Givon's a long way, but you can see from the picture that I showed you in the Koren why that was such an important place to go to, and why they are about to fight over it, because it was a very strategic place.
But also it's in Binyamin, so it's where his family's from.
Fair enough, Paul. You're right. It is in Binyamin. Now, Correct. So he's entitled to go there because that's his family place. Now, if it had been the other way round, in that Yoav, who is the commander of David's troops, let's go back to our map. The Yoav, the commander of David's troops, right? David is over here in Hebron. Okay, David's in Hebron. There's Jerusalem. Givon is probably where the E of Benjamin is, right?
Yeah.
Right now, it's in the territory of Benjamin, as Paul correctly said. It would have been a very provocative move of Yoav to go to Givon, because Givon is in the territory of Benjamin. Shaul, or Ishbosheth as it is now, is king of all of this lot, and Benjamin is his home territory. It would have been very provocative of Yoav. So had Yoav been the one to go out first, then it would have been perfectly reasonable of Ishbosheth, or not Ishbosheth, of Avner on behalf of Ishbosheth to go and defend that place. But Tanakh is subtly telling us that actually it was Avner that started this, not Yoav. Let's go back to the text. There we go. So Avner is the ones that goes out to Givon. Verse 13, Jeffrey.
Joab, son of Zeruiah, and David's servants went forth, and they met together at the Pool of Givon. These were sitting at one end of the pool, and they were sitting at the other end of the pool.
Okay, stop there. So this is called Brechat Givon, the Pool of Givon. By the way, that word brecha is a word used in modern Hebrew. What is a brecha?
Swimming pool.
A swimming pool. Brechat schia is a swimming pool, but we usually just say brecha. Yes, it's a swimming pool. So brecha is a pool. Now, there's a machloket as to where this pool was. There's a very interesting little section of archaeology here in the Koren book about this Brechat Givon, this pool of Givon. There's a discussion here as to whether it was a tunnel, a cistern, and a tunnel which brought
Steinfeld has
water.
got a picture, Johnny.
Steinfeld's
got a picture of a pool in Givon.
Okay, can you show it to us?
Very, very small. Very small. I might never see it.
No, we can't see it. I'll get my one out and see if I can put it in front of the camera. Let's have a look. What page is it on?
352.
352. Okay. Okay, well, it is very small, isn't it? All right, let's see if you can see this. No, you can't see that. No. Right. Let me try this then.
It's more like a crater. It's more like a crater.
It's only likely to be a pool in the rainy season. It's not likely to be a pool all the year round.
Yeah.
You see that? Okay, according to Steinsaltz, that's it. I'm going to show you a different picture now. There's a bigger picture here in the Koren. Let's see if I can see it. Wait a minute. There we go. You see that? That pool right in the middle there. That hole in the middle. See that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that apparently is one opinion. Another opinion is that it is a place outside Givon, which was the source of water for this very strategic place, this hill. Either way, we have a standoff. Do that verse 13 again, Jeffrey.
Joab, son of Zeruiah, and David's servants went forth, and they met together at the Pool of Givon. These were sitting at one end of the pool, and these were sitting at the other end of the pool.
So you've got a standoff. You've got the troops of Avner and the troops of Joab. Avner representing Ishbosheth, the house of Saul. Joab representing David, the house of Judah. And they've got a standoff. One on one side of the pool and one lot on the other side of the pool. What does that remind you of in a previous story of Tanakh?
Well, I think it was the story of David and Goliath, because
yes, exactly, the story of David and Goliath. They were on one side of the valley,
yeah,
and the other on the other side of the valley. You'll remember when we've been on our Tiolim, we've been twice. The Tel Azakah. You can look down on that valley from Tel Azakah, and you can imagine the two lots of troops, one on side of the other.
Johnny, it's likely that the pool will be in the valley rather than on the Tel.
Correct.
And so it's pretty obvious that they would come across it going towards the Tel, and so
of course, whoever controls the water, controls the territory, because in those days the water was the most important thing. So you can picture this situation. It's exactly the same as the David and Goliath story. One bunch on one side and one bunch on the other. The difference, however, is that with the David and Goliath story, one lot were the Israelites and the other lot were the Philistines.
Yeah.
And here, one lot is David and one lot is Ishbosheth. And that's the tragedy of it. Now, what happened in the David and Goliath story? How did that all start?
Well, they threw the Philistines taunted Saul and sort of petitioned for a duel.
Right. Okay. They petitioned for a duel. Excellent. They petitioned for a duel. So that means you've got a whole bunch of troops on one side, a whole bunch of troops on the other side. And instead of everybody coming in and having a big free-for-all and everybody getting killed, what did they decide they'll do? They'll have a representative of each side. The Pelishtim said, right, we've got this chap here, Goliath, right? He's our best soldier. You bring your best soldier and we'll have a fight, a duel. And what will happen? Whoever will win, no, the other way around, whoever will lose will be subservient. That their people will be subservient to the winner's people. So if Goliath wins, then the Israelites would be subservient to the Philistines, and if David would win, then the Philistines would be subservient to the Israelites. And it seems from history, also brought down in the Koran here, that was quite a common way to sort out matters. It's quite a good idea, really, isn't it? When you think about it, instead of having thousands of casualties, you have one, right? You have a couple of people go at it, hammer and tongue, and whoever wins, wins, and whoever loses, loses. And you don't, it's a very good idea. And that's what was going on here. You'll see now, as we go on, it's exactly the same idea. And that's why Tanakh has painted it in the same language as the David and Goliath story for two reasons. Number one, because it's a very similar picture. But number two, to contrast, to tell us that these two groups of people who are both Israelites, right? The people of Ishbosheth and the people of David are acting like enemies. They're acting in the same way as the Israelites and the Plishtim were acting. And Tanakh's subtle message here, if you like, this message which is filtering through, is what a tragedy. This is a terrible thing. Jew against Jew, Israelite against Israelite. Stop fighting amongst yourselves and fight against your enemies. That's what this chapter is trying to tell us in an almost sort of subconscious way. It's telling us that by painting the same language as the David and Goliath story, it's telling us that we're behaving like Plishtim. We're behaving to one another like enemies, and that's a terrible thing.
Surreptitiously. Surreptitiously,
if you like. It's not quite the right word, but anyway. Right. So, okay. So then Avner comes up with this idea. Yes, Jeffrey, verse 14.
Abner then said to Joab, "Let the young soldiers arise and duel before us." And Joab answered, "Let them rise." So they arose and crossed the pool according to a set number, 12 for Benjamin, and Ishbosheth, son of Saul, and 12 of David's servants.
Okay, stop there. So Avner says, "Come on, let's have a duel." Now let's look at the language here. Vayomer Avner el Yoav. Avner said to Yoav, "Yakumuna ha ne'arim." Let the youths get up. Remember, we just had that word earlier on. You were talking about it, Jeffrey. A youth. You said that Na'ar. You said that, well, Yitzchak was 37 at the time of the Akedah, according to Rashi, and he's described as a Na'ar, as a youth. So here, Na'ar, again, I'm indebted to the Koren. Very interestingly, there is in the ancient Near East languages, there is a term which is got a root of NRN, or Nun Resh Nun, was a term used in relation to fighting youths in the region of Canaan. And contemporary Ugaritic texts also seem to use it as a semi-technical word for troops, since it occurs in lists of categories of soldiers. So this word Na'ar, today in modern Hebrew, No'ar is youth. No'ar is youth. If you belong to Tenuat No'ar, you belong to, what's a Tenuat No'ar?
Youth movement.
A youth movement, correct.
As in Hanoah Hatzioni.
Say that again.
As in Hanoah Hatzioni.
As in Hanoah Hatzioni. Yes, the youth, the Zionist youth, correct. Tenuat No'ar is the sort of blanket term for youth movements. Bnei Akiva is an example of Tenuat No'ar, as is Noah Hatzioni. So Noah means youth in modern Hebrew. Anyone that goes to our shul should know that, because every week at the announcements we say Shiur LaNoah. The shiur for the youth will be at whatever time it is. So here Na'ar means fighting soldiers. So Avner, presumably, again, they choose their best guys because they want to win. Avner says, let's have a duel. Now, instead of having 1-on-1, which was with David and Goliath, here they've got 12-on-12. What's the significance of 12? Why not 10 or 5? Why 12?
Tribes.
Yeah, tribes. 12 tribes. It's suggesting that whichever 12 are victorious will be the accepted leader of the 12 tribes. It's symbolic of the 12 tribes, and in a way, what it's trying to do is it's a violent way, or a semi-violent way at least, of trying to sort out this split in the kingdom, this split between Yehuda and Binyamin and the rest of them. So, verse 15. Jeffrey, verse 15.
So they arose and crossed the pool according to a set number, 12 for Benjamin and Ishbosheth, son of Saul, and 12 of David's servants. Each man grabbed his opponent's head and then thrust his sword into his opponent's side, and they fell together. They called that place Helkat Hazorim, in bracket Field of the Swords, which is in Gibeon.
Okay, so what happened with David and Goliath? Well, there was a victor and a defeated. David won, Goliath lost his head, right? What happened here?
They both died. They all died.
They all died.
Each other.
They all killed each other, all 24 of them. It was a draw. It was 12 each. The score draw, 12 all, right? They all died. Each one took hold of his fellow's head. You can imagine it, can't you? Each one's got one in a headlock, and they've got a sword, and they stabbed them in the side. And they all died, and they fell together. Now, that's an interesting word, isn't it? Have a look at this. Vayiplu yachdav. They fell together. I think, I've not read this anywhere, but I think that's a very subtle hint to us that we need to be together. Vayiplu yachdav. If we're not together and we're fighting one another, we're all going to fall. We're going to fall together. And that's bad. I remember one of the most poignant stories of the pre-state years, where the Haganah and the Irgun were not fighting together as a unit, was the famous or infamous story of the Altalina. Okay, the infamous story. I'm sure you're all familiar with the story of the Altalina.
Yeah, tragic.
Absolute tragedy. You had this ship which was coming with arms, which was desperately needed for the
more importantly, with ammunition.
That's what I said, with arms.
Yeah,
yeah, with ammunition and arms for the fight against the British, the Haganah wanted those arms. The Irgun, which had arranged the delivery of these arms, wanted it for itself, and the Haganah attacked the ship, attacked its own armaments coming in, and Menachem Begin, who was the leader of the Irgun Tzvai Leumi, he gave the order not to fire back, and they surrendered the ship and jumped off into the sea rather than fight back. And famously, Menachem Begin said a Jew should never fire against another Jew, and he would not allow his troops to fire back against the Haganah. This is the tragedy that we're seeing here, is that 12 men of David and 12 men of Ishbosheth, all parts of the tribes of Israel, are fighting together. And what was the outcome? They all lost. They all lost. You know, we were saying in jest at the moment, you know, this what's going on in Syria, you know, they should all win. They should all kill one another, you know, let them all be successful. So, you know, here, this is what happened. It's a tragedy. We 12 of Benjamin and 12 of David's servants, each one took hold of his fellow's head, and his sword was thrust in his fellow's side. A dreadful thing, a dreadful thing. And look at what it says in the next verse, 17.
A very intense battle ensued on that day, and Abner was defeated along with the men of Israel by the servants of David.
Stop there. Vatahi hamilchama kasha ad ma'od. And it was the war was extremely kasha. What is kasha?
Hard.
Difficult.
Hard. Difficult. Yeah.
Difficult.
This is the only battle in the entirety of Tanakh which is described like this. And it was a very harsh battle on that day. Now, you will see, you will see as we go on that the number of people that were killed in this battle was about 380. There are battles where there have been thousands, according to Tanakh numbers, killed. And so to say that this is the only place in Tanakh where a battle is described as kasha ad ma'od, really, really difficult, it's nothing to do with the numbers, because there were many, many, many battles where the losses were much greater. I think that the reason that this is the only place in Tanakh where it says so is because this is Jew against Jew. It's not the only place in Tanakh where it's Jew against Jew. I accept that, but I think that the emotion that's coming out of here, the intention of this pasuk, is that, look at the words, Avner and the men of Israel were beaten before David's servants. These are the men of Israel. The men of Israel were beaten before David's servants. And that is why this milchama was kasha ad ma'od. That is why this battle is described, and it's the only place where it's described as kasha ad ma'od, a very, very difficult battle. And I think that should be, we're going to stop there because the next bit is a sub-story, but it's
It starts off as 12 against 12.
Yeah, and then
what happened? I've never seen where a battle started.
Okay, so what happened was, it doesn't tell you, you're right. Instead of them saying, oh, well, it's a draw, it then became a free-for-all. And they all piled in and started fighting one another. Right? Neither of them could claim victory. And so they all piled in. And you'll see later on that, that Avner lost 360 men and David lost 20 men. You'll see that. We'll see that in a few psukim next week. Yes, Ivor.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the explanation of Masada of Kur. It goes back to V'yisachaku lefanenu, yakimu nanarim. This was a very common rite of passage of the young soldiers, and it got out of hand here. There was nobody supposed to be injured or even no man killed. It was supposed to be a sort of friendly show of strength, and it became a battle where they all actually stabbed each other. But it says V'yisachaku lefanenu. This was a very common, so they say.
Okay, that's interesting. So Vayisachaku lefanenu, let them. I think Jeffrey translated it from the Art Scroll, if I'm not mistaken, as let them duel for us. Verse 14, Jeffrey.
Abner then said to Joab, let the young soldiers arise and duel before us.
Yeah, so actually that's a poor translation, because if you look at the
play before us.
Play, yeah. So if you look at on our screen, the Chabad is play as well. And look at the Hebrew word, vayisachaku. What's the word for a match? A football match?
Mishak.
Yeah, mishak. Lesachek means to play. Lesachek means to play. So this is a good translation. Art Scroll's translation is not an accurate translation. I mean, it tells us what was going on, but it's not an accurate translation. And if you take the accurate translation and you use the word vayisachaku, I think that's where the Mossad Rav Kook has got that from, Ivor, from that word vayisachaku, that this was all a game. It was meant to be a game that got out of hand. Of course, this is the problem when games get out of hand.
Look at the Koren translation, Johnny.
Koren translation says, verse 14, Let the lads get up and sport before us. That's a very good translation. Sport before us. And of course, if you think about the, even at a much later date, but a long time ago for us, the Roman gladiator situation, it's the same thing. They got people to go and sport and duel one another. It was sport, you know, that was what you went to watch. Yeah, modern day sport is the grandchild of Gladiator. That's all, and that's why we like it.
Still very tribal.
Still very tribal. Exactly. So I think that's a good place to stop. We'll stop there at verse 16. What have we done today? We've looked at the geography again. We've looked at how they went all the way from over here, Machanaim, to Givon. We looked at the history of Givon, and we looked at our tribal map that took Yoav going to challenge them. We looked at the topography of Givon, the fact that it's on a tell. We looked at the Pool of Givon, where this is all taking place, and we also compared the story of David and Goliath to this standoff, one on one side and one on another, and the fact that they have these representatives, and of course the subplot into here, going on subconsciously here, is this idea that there is civil war going on, and Tanakh is very critical of the idea that Israelite should fight against Israelites, because the Israelites have got enough enemies of their own. We don't need any more enemies from within. So that's what we've done this week. Please God, next week we will continue to have a look at this battle and see what happened after that. And you'll see, as I indicated earlier on, that both Avner and Yoav do not come out looking very good on this episode. There is criticism of both sides here, which of course is often the case when you have certainly when you have a civil war. I remember my mother used to say there are three sides to every story: his side, her side, and the truth. And it's quite
It's a
correct.
good expression, isn't it?
Yeah. His side, her side, and the truth. And that is what Tanakh is telling us, that both Yoav and Avner were to blame for this problem that occurred here and this loss of life. Any questions on today's shiur?
It was brilliant.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Thank you.
And you know something, you can see it today. We've got the infighting going on in the state of Israel today. People will never learn, and they won't stand down. And
it's the same everywhere, though. It's the same everywhere.
They're going to destroy the state if they behave like that.
Unfortunately, I think you're right, and that's why it's so important that we keep on learning Tanakh, and we keep on learning history. You know, many people have said before. George Santayana was the first to say it, I think, that anybody who doesn't study history is doomed to repeat it. And that's why it's so important. We said this at the end of last week's shiur. That's why it's so important.
History, it's proven.
Yeah.
I'm a very big fan of that expression.
So the yeshiva have got a lot to answer for.
Well, yes, absolutely agree.
Yeah,
we absolutely agree that there is a huge problem there, and it needs to be sorted out. I don't see a solution on the horizon right now, but it has to be sorted out, because otherwise we are in danger of tearing ourselves apart. As the demographics change and the Haredi population becomes even more numerous, this will become an even bigger problem. And it needs to be sorted out. I mean, we're in danger now of stepping into politics, so I'm going to stop the recording, and we will continue. If you want to continue the discussion, you can do so off